Give me 1 second, guys. I am trying to get everything set up. I thought I had it ready. This is just something new to me, and so um, let's let's talk about it. And so I'm just kind of getting everything set up here, and so welcome. I'm going to get everything hopefully up and going, and I hope you guys are doing good. And so I just want to kind of touch base what I just went through, and obviously, hopefully, it goes the way I wanted it to go. And so they say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and so I was honored to be able to, you know, talk about Measure 114. It was something that I spent a lot of time learning about, and traveling and taking notes and writing and being a part of it, and so it was nice to have somebody kind of put me in the game here, and I hope the words came out the way I wanted them to. And basically what I was focusing on today was the fact that we're not the problem, and the problem with Measure 114 is it focuses on the wrong group of people. It focuses on you and me, but doesn't focus on the people that are actually committing gun crimes. And so that's where, if you guys can hear it, please let me know. Thanks for, I see some people are joining, so I appreciate you guys tuning in. And, so we're, just trying to figure out, what this all looks like. Obviously we had court yesterday, all the beginning signs say that it could be, a month, a couple weeks, it's going to take time for them to make their review. And I think what's important to really note here is the fact that the media is going to try to control this narrative right now. The media, so they're going to try to take it out of the courts. They're going to try. I mean, that's why this story today, and I'm curious to see how it goes, because it talked about the Bend active shooting. It was at Safeway, which was a horrible tragedy. The problem with Measure 114, it doesn't address the mental health crisis that person was under. Also, it didn't, there was nothing that was going to prevent him from buying that gun. And so the fact that you're going to pass this broad sweeping bill that's going to make it harder for all of us, yet it's not going to stop that guy. That's the problem. And so that's where we have to be aware of is this is now, like, one thing we have to realize about Measure 114, it sells ad space. Okay. I get Google alerts every day because of, that tag that I have set up for Google alert. It's Measure 114. So every day, and 99% of the Google alerts that I get are not even related to Measure 114. And so what they're doing is they're putting together all their news stories, because they track their analytics like I do on my websites. And what they do is they submit the tags Measure 114 as a way for Google to hit on it. And that's what broadcasts out everybody that's got an alert set up for it. So it's a way for them to get clicks. And obviously whenever I look at that Google alert, I got one a little bit ago, and it was actually, there's 10 stories. So I'm going to break down. There's ones I'm not going to put in the group. There's ones I am going to put into the group. And so I'm going to make sure that we don't give them the clicks that they want. So I'm very specific when it comes to how I put stuff in the group, because there's a good chance that if it's a good story, and I mean, thousands of people can see it. The video that, or the story that I posted earlier has 5,000 views, and it's you guys clicking on it because you guys are coming here. You guys are coming here to learn. You guys are coming here because you guys are part of the group. And so the certain anti-gun publications like the Oregonian, I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of getting a click. I'm not going to help them with their ad revenue. And so that's where we got to be smart as gun owners, is how we separate and send out information, especially if we want everybody to be educated on the topic, right? We want our partners to see, what we see. We want our friends and our families to know what's happening, what's the latest, but we also have to be careful of, who we're going to support, right? So if we're supporting a media source that doesn't align with us and would love to see, all of us disarmed, we should not do anything to help them. And that's where I'm very, very careful with the information that I put out. I'm very selective, you know, because I do not want to give them a platform for their crap. So that's where I'm at. And so, I had the interview went well. I'm curious to see how they cut it up and make it there. I try to record it because I want to use it for YouTube. They wouldn't allow me to record it. And also, typically when I do interviews like this, I always record them because I want, they have a really good knack of twisting and contorting people's words. And so for my protection, I always look to, record the conversation whenever I can. That way, we saw, last year when I was interviewed by the Washington Post, that lady totally butchered my thoughts, right? And she tweaked it the way it made her narrative sound good. But then I was able to release, and I released immediately. I put it immediately on YouTube. I have nothing to hide. And here is what I said verbatim, and so it's not popular for them because it doesn't fit their narrative. They have a preconceived notion, like they're very like this is what they're looking for, and I come at it from like I'm over here in left field. They don't even know how to react, and so it's just part of the practice that I put in over the years of learning, how to deal with the media, how to deal with people that don't like guns, how to people that are afraid of guns, so it's all part of a learning experience for me. And part of what I'm doing here is I'm showing you how I do it, and hopefully you can take these little bits and pieces and they can help you. Coming up on the holidays, we're coming into Thanksgiving and Christmas season, right? So we're going to be you know getting together as families, and there might be people that might be on both sides of the aisle. So it's being able to have important conversations without losing points. When I'm talking about points, I'm not trying to score points, but I'm saying like I can convert if I'm face to face and I present the evidence and the message and the information in a positive way that that person's going to understand. And so that's a good way for us to get conversions when we're face to face with families. It's also a good way to lose, have family drama, and I don't want family drama. So I'm very careful with the way I put out the information, and so that's it's all part of this process, and we get better as gun rights advocates when we get challenged, we get put in positions where we have to think, we have to challenge what we think is right. And so we have to sometimes speak out loud and what those thoughts truly mean. I probably would have lost the I said shall not be infringed. That would have not gone the way I wanted it to go, because that probably would have shut down any kind of progress I could have made. I was, thankfully I watched Tony with, and he brought up a really valid point about the background check. So I was able to interject that into the interview. I was able to bring up the fact that every gun in the state of Oregon goes through a background check in Oregon and across the country. Okay. So talk about everybody, like they make it look like we're buying guns out of the back of our trunks of our vehicles, but that's not the way it works. And the media has never been challenged on that. The newspapers that write these articles have never been challenged because of the fact that they get a certain narrative, and that's the only part they're going to report. So I do respect the fact that they had both sides of the argument here. They had one person that obviously was at the Safeway when that shooting happened, which I made it very clear that I don't want to see anybody lose their life. That's the opposite of what we do. But it's important to note that for us to fix these problems, we all have to have a seat at the table. Okay, there's 1 to 2 million gun owners in the state of Oregon. We deserve the opportunity to have our experiences be heard. And that's what governance is. Okay. Governance isn't by, they say it's the will of the people, but it's not the will of the people. Okay. It's if it was the will of the people, it would have we would not have any fraud in our election, right? And it probably would we would have had 160,000 Republicans show up when it was time to vote, and we wouldn't have lost by 20,000 votes. Okay. So if it was a true will of the people, that's what I would advocate is if it's the will of the people, prove it was the will of the people. Until then, there's dead people that are voting. There's people that are getting multiple ballots. There's people that are falsifying their records so they can vote multiple times. So you can't tell me. And the voter rolls haven't been cleaned up. I saw that the Secretary of State is being sued right now because of that, which is great. But they haven't cleaned up the voters' roll, so we don't know who's voting. And so until we clean up our elections, I'm not going to accept the fact that they say a quote unquote vote of the will of the people, you know. And we can say the same thing though as well is when we're talking about Measure 110. So Measure 110 was a will of the people as well, right? So everybody voted that garbage bill into law. That thing wreaked havoc on so many lives. People died, and so from that, you know, that was modified in the legislature, but where was the outcry? That was against the will of the people, right? So it's only the will of the people if it affects guns, and that's my biggest beef. Okay, it's you know my right to lawful self defense supersedes drug abuse. Okay, and so you can use that as your talking point later on. Okay, my right to lawful self defense supersedes drug abuse, and so I should be able to use anything. Like when I'm watching the video, which I put it in here, the guy was in a Safeway with an AR-15, right? I'm not going to want a 10 round magazine. I'm not going to want a 5-shot revolver in that situation. Okay. If I'm put in that position, I'm going to want as many rounds as I possibly and ably and physically can fit on my person comfortably and concealed. Okay. A typical loadout for me when I'm carrying a gun in public is 18. So 17 in the gun, one in the chamber, and then 2 backup magazines with 22 rounds in them on my person. Okay. And that's where I'm prepared for the day. And I know there's very many other people just like me, and we're not the ones committing these crimes, and we're not the ones that should be held to a higher standard. And so, the only thing I can do is advocate for myself, advocate for you guys, and give you guys the information you need to be, part of this process. Yeah, absolutely. And democracy is mob rule, 100%, Ty. But the difference here, okay, between the will of the people, and I did a post about it the other day, is we live in a constitutional republic. Okay, constitutional republic means we elect people in our areas to go up into Salem or to go across the country into Washington D.C. to do the work on our behalf. Okay, that's a constitutional republic. That's the difference. Okay, so we have a democratic system, right? But we are a constitutional republic, and there's so many people that do not understand that. And the sooner we understand that we are not a democracy, we are a constitutional republic, the better off that we're going to be, because that's the way we're going to be able to rein this stuff back in. And it's gonna take us being loud and vocal and saying no. This is as Trump would say, this is fake news, right? So we are not a democracy, and they say they have to protect the democracy. Okay, if they're protecting the democracy, would they allow our ballot boxes to be set on fire by people that want to basically wipe Israel off the face of the earth? So that's the tough part here is there's so much hypocrisy involved with this situation. Yes, Matt, this is a great point, is low information voters. Okay, that is what we are struggling with currently, is people put out information because our attention spans are so short that it could be a 15-second clip, and that's all you're going to have of these people. And you put out a clip that says a dictator, and he's going to do all these things, he's going to do all these things. People are going to latch onto that because their attention spans are so short. They're lazy, they do not engage in the constitutional republic, and they let other people make their decisions for them, and they just go along with the ride. And in this situation, what we're going into, I hope we're all voted I'm gonna check in a little bit, and I'll let you guys know where we're at, but we better be voting. Okay, we need a uh, popular vote win, and we also need electoral college. Okay, we need both of those as a win. Okay, so oh yeah, Ty, you're my dude, and so I always enjoy, I owe you a beer sometime. And because I like your thought process. I mean, that's what they want. They feel that if they do all these things and they do this, they take away our vehicles, they have us riding bicycles, this is going to turn into some sort of utopia. The problem is they don't understand human nature. Okay. Human nature is something people become violent. I mean, it's almost primal sometimes, right? Especially when we're dealing with people that are mentally ill, that people that are on drugs, that are people that are just trying to do bad things because that's what they do, and so the people that are writing these laws, they have no idea understanding of human nature and what it is to be evil. And we could argue that their policies are evil. The fact that you're taking away the ability for a woman to be able to defend themselves with a 15 round magazine because of you're scared of a number, right? That's really the criminal part. And so I you know this gun control affects women at a higher rate than it would somebody me, a white male. So that also people of color in urban environments. So there's data that supports all of that. Okay. And so that's where we're gonna have to make sure going into this election we're showing up and we vote. And I know we have an attorney general that's running, Will Lathrop. I've yet to speak with him, but the other guy is really bad. If we want a continuation of Ellen Rosenbaum, we elect the other guy. If we want a new fresh face, then we get somebody like Will Lathrop. I wish he would have been more forthcoming with gun owners, but he's our guy in the fight. So that's kind of where I'm at. So we just have to be aware, and we have to make sure that we protect the seats that we have currently, and we also elect others, and we expand. And so we only lose if we don't show up. And from what I'm seeing Scott Springer posted some really good stuff about what's coming out of Portland. I'll look at it, but there's so many people that are not even voting in Portland. Okay, so that's kind of our call to action right now. If the people in Portland are not showing up, that's always our excuse of why we lose. It's always those big cities. It's Salem, it's Eugene, it's Portland. Those are the reason we always lose these elections. Okay, so now if they're not showing up and voting, right? This is our opportunity that we tell our friends and our neighbors and our family members that their vote is more valuable now than it's been. And so obviously we don't have a governor election, like a governor race, but we have some other important, like we have a secretary of state that we need to protect, the treasurer. Like that guy's a super bad guy. Tobias Reed is a super anti-gun guy. So he's been involved, Tobias Reed, and I believe he's running for the treasurer. um he's been flying to Washington D.C. to meet with the Biden administration for their gun violence prevention office, right? The Office of Gun Violence Prevention. So he is the last person we want for that position. Okay. So like this is our chance. Okay. This is our chance let's use their apathy, because we're the ones that are typically apathetic. Okay. We're the ones that always say, my vote doesn't matter, so I'm going to stay home. Okay. This is our time. This is our time to make a change. Okay. So it takes all of us showing up, and let's go ahead and make sure that that vote is cast. So let me look at Matt's comment. Um, well, here's the deal, Matt, and this is one thing that I've stressed. I can't stress this enough. Is there's no such thing as a perfect candidate. Okay, it's impossible. There's only one that can win. Okay, so that's where our thought process is if we don't get this perfect person that's going to line and check all these boxes for us, we just stay home, right? And that's the wrong thing to think about, right? So there's no such thing as the perfect candidate, but there's a candidate that can win. Okay, so obviously there's things that I'm not happy with the presidential election, but I know the alternative, and so that's where I don't care what I had to do, I'm going to vote for that. Okay. So we have to change that thought process. Okay. We will never, ever win. And it's been 40 years of Democratic control. And, we have never been able to establish any kind of change. And so that's why we have to change. And I know it's not easy. So, that's just my perspective, and I hope it makes sense. And so, yeah, Brian, a great example. It was written by people. I brought that up. It's written by people that have no basic understanding of firearms, how firearms work. Okay, and so that's where all of us should have the ability to be able to educate and inform and be a part of the process. I'm not advocating for any further restriction. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if I'm going to be regulated the way I'm going to be regulated under Measure 114, I should have some sort of say in the matter, right? So I know, what's practical and what's not practical, and I know what I'm going to comply with, and I know what I'm not going to comply with, and so I'm not advocating for any more restriction. I want no restriction. Okay. My 2A is pretty self-explanatory, right? Because I understand the context of that document. I understand the context of Article 1, Section 27 of the Oregon Constitution as well. So those are my guiding lights. Okay. So everything else is, if we're going to look at it at face value, an infringement. It really is. And what has it done? It's done. And they talk about public safety, right? In the name of public safety, we have to do this, right? Well, there is nothing in Measure 114 that benefits public safety. And that's the reality. And that's why it's held up in court. And that's the question. Why was it held up in court? Well, because it's unconstitutional. That's why. Um, I should have done better with that spot, but it is what it is. I'm always, hindsight's always 2020. You're always going to think back after you turn off the camera and say, "Oh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have said that." And it just is what it is. I'm just thankful for the opportunity. I'm thankful for a friend that's on my friends list that follows the work that we're doing here in the group, and he told his producer that they should interview me, and they interviewed me. So that was cool. So it's cool to have people that see the work that I'm doing and think that I would be a good fit for them and their market. So I'm thankful for that. So, but the goal is to give you guys a voice. And I want everybody to have a voice. I want everybody to have the knowledge that I've gained over the years, so you guys can be better and make a better case for yourselves, right? And your families, right? So, that's the biggest thing. Is I always say that I'm coming at this from a gun rights perspective, and I'm protecting my rights. Okay, this is me doing my job for me, but I bring every one of you along with me because you're my friends and my family. So, but hopefully I can help you do the same that I do. That's the goal. So, um, yeah, 100%, Matt. And that's where we're on the verge of right now is the verge of a super majority, right? So if we do not win and hold like where we're at currently, and they get the super majority, they'll have both houses, they'll have the governor's office, and then they could literally modify the Oregon Constitution. They could literally put, you know, Measure 114 into place right now as with an emergency declaration, right? Emergency clause, and say that we're doing the on the behalf of the public and public safety, and this thing would go out of the courts and it could go into legislature, it could go into law. Okay, so that's why like your vote is really really important. And I know, if you have to, hold your nose and make the vote. I get it. There's no such thing as that perfect candidate, but there's one that can win, and we need to win. So the fact that Portland's down, we should be using that to our advantage. The fact that, and I'll do the research and I'll have it prepared for this afternoon when I do that post, for what the data is, because I'm tracking this every day until the election. Every day I'm going to track how many people have turned in their ballots. I'm going to give you guys an update, like I did yesterday. Okay, so we can view that, and So if, we should be tracking it, and this should be, we should be watching those urban and like urban counties, right? So we should be looking at Lane County with Eugene. We should be looking Clackamas, Washington County. We should also be looking at Marion County as well, like looking at all of those, right? If they are still down, all of we have to get out the word in those rural counties and make sure those rural counties override the voice of the big cities. Okay, we can do it. I totally believe in us. Okay, if I was going to bet on us, I would bet on gun owners every time. Okay, and so that's where I'm saying is if we can do the right thing and just and make sure that our voices are heard, maybe, just maybe, we can make a change. And then, we build momentum for the next election because now we saw that we did it, right? And so, that's something that could give us hope for the next. So let me see what you got. Hmm. I like that. Let's talk about revolution. What do you mean by revolution? Um, let's talk that. Let's talk that. Uh, let's talk that thought out. Nicole. Yeah. I mean, we're so close. I mean, and I don't want to get people's hopes up because that's, and I know we're not going to have, like, our voice is not going to matter in the presidential election. But could you imagine if we got the attorney general? Like, if we got the attorney general's office and he says, and I can't put words in his mouth, but he's not going to push this thing forward. Because we look at it financially. I mean, we spent $5 million, $5 million to get to this point, at least on defense of Measure 114. So imagine if we picked up, Dennis Lithicum, he's running for Secretary of State. If we could get him, he is one of our best friends up there when it comes to guns. And I could tell you a story about him and what he did for me back in 2019. And so, he was a co-sponsor for one of the bills that I wrote. And so he is definitely one of our friends, and I've met with him. He's a super great guy. He's just, his wife's running for his position right now, because he can't run again because of him vacating the Senate or House, excuse me. So that's kind of where I'm at. So any other questions, comments, concerns? I was just already set up for it, so that's why I thought I'd do a live, especially it's lunchtime for many of us, and I just, talking about this stuff helps me yeah, I could see that. Um, I would see more of a revolution, a more viable resolution is, us having children, raising kids, us, going to church, us believing in our Constitution. I think that's more of a revolution because what they've tried to do over the past couple years is they've tried to destroy all of that with their policies. And so I think the more fitting revolution is we turn it on and get back to more traditional values. Obviously, I'm a supporter of everybody and everybody's right until it infringes on my rights, right? But I feel that if we got back to a traditional, constitutional based liberty, we're going to be better off. I struggle with libertarians because they don't play well with others. I get their perspective, I get what they're trying to do, but I feel that they're very staunch and they're very they don't work well with others. And so we're talking about building a broad-based coalition. We can't do that as libertarian. I used to be libertarian. I used to align libertarian because I believe in my Constitution and the founding principles. But the problem is it's not a path to victory. And so that's where we have to go. Andrew hit it right here is community is the most important. And that's how we grow our numbers is through this kind of coming together and understanding we're all different. um you know, I yes, I would agree. I'm anti-establishment. I am anti-establishment because I'm not in control of the establishment. Okay. And there's people that are so desperate and holding on to power at the state and federal level that put me in a position I'm anti. Like, I get the sentiment of, tearing it all down and starting back over. The problem is the wrong people would start building it back up. That's the problem. Okay. So that's where I am anti establishment, because the establishment no longer works for us, we the people. That's kind of where I'm at. And I'm not calling for any kind of violence or anything like that. I'm a peaceful dude, right? I'm just using my words in a way that I don't want them to be misconstrued. I feel that the systems is so broken that it takes a major reset, and it's going to take the right people with the right state of mind to rebuild it. And it's not the people that we have in place right now. I guess that's where I would say it in the most eloquent way that I can. Okay. Um, it's a mess. It is, but the way we control it though, the way we, there were Yes, yes. And I have a friend that believe that she turned me on to this back in the day, right? It's ordered liberty, right? Ordered liberty. So ordered liberty says that I can do whatever I want to do as long as I don't affect others, right? So let's say I can drive 100 miles an hour down the freeway, but as long as I'm not driving into oncoming traffic, because I have this right to drive as fast as I want to drive, even though I'm breaking the law, as long as I used ordered liberty and stay within my lane, then I mean, obviously I'm speeding and I'm putting people at risk, but you get the point. So, everything anarchy is great until we don't have any leadership, right? So, I don't I don't I don't believe. I mean, we need order. We need laws. We need law enforcement. We need all of this stuff. We also need people that can put differences aside and actually work together towards the common good of the state and the country. That's not happening. I put a little joke in here. I had some people freak out earlier about the good morning garbage got ammo. I thought it was hilarious. And so, some people didn't find it funny because they didn't get the joke. But if you were in the know, you'd understand that that's what we were all called. And, I'm not a piece of garbage. If that person that called me a piece of garbage is, think he probably misspoke, and so I give him some grace because he is, 95 years old, going on 110. And thank you, Ty, for tuning in. I appreciate it. So I try to give him some grace, but I try to make fun of it, So, a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to do now with the group is just, there we're all stressed out because we don't know what's going to happen. And so I gotta have some sort of relief. And it's good for my mental health, it's good for your mental health, so there's just something to think about, Um, anything else we need to cover? Let's vote. Okay. I'm going to do an update later on. I'm not going to do a video update. I will do an update on the numbers. Let's beat out those bigger cities. Okay. Let's show up and vote. Um, you know, it probably your safest bet would be to go to your local election office if you can. If not, just be aware, they are vandalizing the boxes. I would see that would be happening more up in Portland, which I don't understand why they would do that, because, that's their voting block. So why would you light up somebody in your area, especially when you're basically protesting? It's a protest vote, right? And those are all the votes that you would need to make sure that your person gets elected. So I don't understand the thought process. They are it's a mess. And I don't understand what goes through some of these people's head. I believe it's just it's mental illness. It's outside influence like Soros money. It's probably the types of media that they're taking in that they would think that that's a good idea. But you and I, as law abiding citizens, we're gonna. That's not what we do. So, um, so that's about all I got. and so amen, vote, 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 so I'll keep you guys posted when I hear more. I'm gonna go through all of the information for Measure 114 that I got on my Google alert. I'm gonna pick and choose what I put into the group because of what I talked about earlier. I'm not gonna give them ad revenue, right? And because our money, we're going to vote with our ballots. We're going to be voting with our dollars, and so that's be mindful of those big box stores. Those big box stores are going to sell you out, like we saw already. Okay, I'm not going to bring it up, but spend your money wisely. You should be donating to the fight for Measure 114. If you're going to be buying guns and accessories, we're buying them from local stores and supporting our neighbors and our friends. Okay, and we're also getting out and voting. Okay, those are the three most important call to action from today. Okay. So if you take anything from this video, thanks for tuning in. But those are the three things. So make sure you donate, make purchases from your neighbors, and then get out and vote and vote and vote. So, all right. That was a good one. So thank you very much. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.